Hello, colleagues, and welcome to the next episode of DINCast, where we're going to be looking at disrupting the customer experience, which post-COVID is going to be critically important to any customer-facing businesses. I'm delighted to be joined by Eleazu, who's currently the Chief Operating Officer at Bought by Many, but he's also a successful author and leadership speaker as well. So, Oki, thank you very much for joining us today. Do you want to tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, always this really tough bit, me speaking about myself. So I kind of split my career into two parts, right? Part one, where I was corporate person and, started off as a graduate trainee at Legal and General Insurance and worked my way up to be a senior manager there, and then moved on to the Prudential, the Mighty Pru, as I like to call it, where I ended up being customer service director. Great job, looking after 18 million customers with 4,000 people working for me. It was a really tremendous part of my career at a very young age, and taught me a lot about leadership and some of the stuff we'll talk about today, I'm sure. And then I went and joined Bupa, where I was customer service and ops director there too. Big teams, big geography, managing a lot of people. And that was great, and I really, really enjoyed it, and it was a very formative time in my career. But when I left Bupa, I decided that I wanted to do something different. I'd kind of fallen in love with the whole idea of customer experience, and I wanted to work with as many organisations as I could. So I started my own business, Think Outside In, which was all about trying to get organisations to think about the customer experience from outside the organisation rather than from inside the organisation, and that was great. And I had lots of clients, and that was brilliant. And as part of that, I spent another really important period where I was director of customer experience at Sainsbury's for 2.5 years. A total revelation for me. When you're dealing with an organisation that does 100 million transactions a week through thousands and thousands of shops, through 160,000 colleagues. This was, if you want to do it big, and this was at scale, and that was an amazing experience. And then when I'd done that, I decided that startups were a good thing, and I quite liked them. And so I got the opportunity to join Bought by Many 4 years ago, almost to the day. And we are an insurance business. And actually, you talk about pivots, and people talk about pivots, but we're a business that was about communities to start with. But then we decided that one of the communities that we're doing really well was with pets and pet insurance, that we would pivot the business to focus on pets and pet insurance. And that's what we've done for the last three years. And we've gone from building business that had 0 customers to almost 200,000 in the last 3 years, which has been quite an experience. So that's great. I was also on the board of Bromford Housing Association, which is it's not where we met. We met through various different things, but 8 years on the HA board was really, really great. I'm now on the advisory board of another business called Beam, which is a great social enterprise to do with helping homeless people back into work.
Thank you. I mean, we'll probably come back and touch on some of those issues, because I'm really keen to explore your views around running a disruptive startup. But I suppose just turn to more immediate matters. I mean, what's your view around how businesses and leaders have responded to the COVID crisis from a customer experience perspective? Have you got any sort of good or bad examples of organizations and leaders?
Well, I mean, there is no doubt that if you're studying change and disruption, there's no better time to study it, right? Because this is, without doubt, the most disruptive time that I have experienced in my career, that you will have, that almost every single person listening to us will have ever experienced. It's like clearly a healthcare crisis of global proportion, leading to an economic crisis of almost equal proportions, and you throw a bit of political issue in there, a bit of technology in there, and then a bit of social in there. Really, I'm not sure you can get much more of it. And so I think the reaction has been really, really interesting. The reaction to the lockdown on its own was incredible. I mean, literally overnight, moving from almost freedom to do what you want to almost complete restriction. And the impact on businesses, I don't even think all the businesses could see at the time. And I've kind of coined a few phrases. One of them is Corona speed. I think businesses generally have moved at Corona speed. They've done things they could never think they could do, and they've done them almost overnight. Almost overnight. In our business, we toyed with, because we were lucky that we built our business in the cloud, we were able to move from an office premises based type business to a working from home business literally overnight with zero impact, right? But I know lots of other organizations weren't built like that. They weren't ready for that, and they couldn't do that. But a lot of them have survived, and they've managed to get going because they've had to. And that impetus has created this speed that was unprecedented, even in the slowest moving organizations. So I think that's one benefit. A lot of people now know they can run fast. They never knew they could run fast before. They know they can run fast now. So I think that's been exceptional. But I would class the reaction in three, sorry, not so much the reaction, but the thought process about Corona into three groups. I think we've got a group of people who are resisting. I'm saying resisting. What that means is they know that they had to move fast, and they've had to make change to make their businesses survive, but they're looking forward to getting back to normal as soon as possible. We'll get through this. Is kind of like, if we just do this, we'll get through this and it'll be okay. We can pretty much go back to where we were and it'll be fine. There are those who are adapting. And I think those businesses are ones who have said, God, we've moved fast. And actually, look, the working from home kind of works for us. Maybe we'll do some more of that, or maybe the stuff in the cloud works. Maybe we'll do some more of that. Oh, the model's changed a bit. Maybe we'll do some more of that, So our business is going to change. It's not going to be, we're never going to be the same as we were before. But this new business will be better, but will look something like the old one. And I think the last group is those who are embracing the change, who are literally saying, hang on a second, we've done all this stuff. We've moved at Corona speed, which is incredible. And actually, all we can see in front of us is opportunity for our offices to look different, opportunities for our colleagues to look different, opportunities for our recruitment to look differently, opportunities for our cost base to look different, opportunities for our model to look different, and we're going to embrace them. This business that will emerge will look very little like the business that was there before. And I think, my view, those who are on the embrace side are the ones in the long term that will win.
And so from Bought by Many's perspective then, you've mentioned some of the changes that you've had to go to, what are the most sort of profound ones that Corona has made you look at the business again for?
Yeah, so you cannot get away from how do people work, right? What is their working environment? Because we've been lucky, our actual business model in terms of selling pet insurance has stayed pretty robust. But where we do it from has been completely blown asunder. And the thing that there are many things that I love about what's happening. But the most significant, I think, is when you break geographical boundaries of where people live to work, then the opportunity to recruit the best person becomes no longer geographically constrained, does it? It becomes nebulous, right? If the best leader of the contact center lives in Edinburgh and we're not in Edinburgh, but they can work from home and maybe come down and see us once a month, that person can work for me now. They couldn't work for me before, right? So suddenly the war for talent becomes virtual, right? It becomes huge. And I think that's incredibly exciting, and even if you take it down to guys who work in the contact center, they always had to be from Haywards Heath, one of our offices, or from Birmingham, but now they can be from Liverpool, right? They can be from Manchester. They can be from Norwich, right? This is all possible, right? So suddenly I'm like, who's the best person for this job, right? And our challenge is, how do we use technology to onboard them, to make them welcome, onboard them, get them to know their colleagues, work effectively, so to claim that reward, we have to invest our mind and our energy and our money into technology that can make it happen.
And I mean, that's a really interesting sort of proposition. We'll come on to some of the a bit more about the recruiting and how you go about that. But I mentioned in the introduction, you're also a successful author as well. I think a couple of years back, you wrote a publication on the cult of service excellence, didn't you?
Yep.
Um, it,
I have a copy here, right? There you
oh,
go.
you got a book. I
Would
wish
you like?
I wish I had a copy of that. That must be
Oh,
quite rare. Then I'll give you.
let's
Have you
see
got
if
one?
I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on and put the.
There
Oh,
you go.
shit! Look at that, guys. Yes. So there he is, the cult of service excellence. And I suppose it's at the point in time of you sort of writing that, the world would have been very, very different. And I think sort of looking what's going to come next, how do you see service excellence and customer experience changing? You've talked about who you see as the winners, those who are embracing the change, but where do you see the new battlegrounds for customer experience happening?
Yeah. Well, I've always sort of said, people ask me, what's the future of customer experience? And I'm like, I really don't know, right? But customers, I'm not sure they know either, but they know what they want and they know what they expect. And I think, again, this is what's happened, so I could answer this question so differently 4 months ago, because I think customer behavior and customer expectations have completely changed. And everyone's battling it. And one of the key things, so the tailwind for this change has been technology, right? And customer behaviour has changed more than it possibly could have. I use my mother as the best example of this. My mum had no interest in ever doing online shopping, right? None, zero. And as much as I convinced her, because I worked at Sainsbury's, she wouldn't have it. But now, because she was shielding and she was on her own, she had to understand how to use it, how to log on, how to get onto the list for priority delivery and get those deliveries. And now she's got it, right? And she's like, this is great. Right, I'm still going to go to the shops, but frankly, I'm going to get loads of my stuff done online. So the tech adoption, the customer behavior has changed. When I was at Sainsbury's, we were like, we need a tailwind to get people to go online, and we don't know what that tailwind's going to be. Well, it's here, right? It's what's happened with Corona, what's happened with COVID. It's changed the way people, if you think of cashless and tap and all of that sort of stuff, it's been incredible. How people communicate is changed. How people want to be communicated with has changed. In the Zoom age, and even this whole thing about track and trace and privacy and technology and how intertwined it needs to be in a customer's life has completely changed. So literally the game is changed. And the only thing I can ever say to people about this is follow the customer, right? Follow the customer. Really make sure you understand what your customers want, how they're behaving, how they want to be different, because actually at the end of the day, you still got to get their trust. And they'll trust those organizations who work in a way that works for them, who do the right things, who've been doing the right things in Corona, or from some of these social justice issues. All of these things are incredibly important. So there's never been a more important time to get close to your customers, understand what they want, how they want to be served, and follow them.
And it's interesting, sort of, talking with my members in the social housing space, that actually what they've found is that customer satisfaction has actually gone up during this particular crisis, because their speed of response has been more important than the actual sort of perfection of getting the actual sort of service. The customer had an immediate need, and we want you to sort of solve this. So I just wonder whether, this sort of, again, sort of speed of response is something that customers are now going to be expecting even more.
Yeah, I think it definitely is. I think what's happened in the short term is people are more forgiving, because they know that this is an incredibly difficult time for businesses, right? Because they know that they might not have everyone in their contact centers, or that their people might be furloughed, and initially people might be sick, right? That's what people thought. Everyone's going to be sick, and therefore, if you said we've got half the people we've got because they were all sick, people were like, yeah, I get that. And so we had some incredible things in terms of service levels for banks and insurance companies, where literally didn't have the staff and people were accepting it. But that is only short term, right? That is only short term. And I think what will then happen is expectations will be from, okay, we understand it was Corona, it was COVID and thingy, to rising back to where they were, and I suspect passing it, because now they know that things need to happen fast. Everyone's been more exposed to Amazon and Ocado and these digitally built businesses, and I think people will think, actually, that's how everything should be, right? Self-service, that's how it should be. It's there, it should be there. I should be able to go online and do this. I should be able to get a delivery tomorrow. And I think, I don't know, but I think what will happen is people will become less forgiving of poor service. It's certainly delays.
I mean, one of the things to sort of building that service excellence is around sort of building a high-performing, experienced team. Could you sort of give us an insight into how you would approach, whether it was your time at Sainsbury's or Bupa or wherever, how you approached, or how you did it bought by many, is probably a better example, a high-performing team? What does that look like to you?
I had a term, David Brailsford used it at Sky, podium people, right? If we're here, we want to get here, how are we going to do it? And what sort of people do we need? We need podium people. We need people who can get up there and achieve that. And they're the people that will react to challenge really, really well, really strongly, and strive to be the best. And we talk in our business, Bought by Many, about growth mindset. It's something I picked up from the kids' school, right, about 4 years ago, when they talked about kids having a growth mindset, and that was all about understanding that their future wasn't fixed by the skills they were born with, and that they can always improve those skills to achieve whatever they set out to achieve. And it kind of was an articulation of what I'd always believed in. And I thought, well, this is great. Why is this just in education? Why can't we talk about growth mindset in business, which I still don't think we do enough? And so when I'm looking for colleagues to come and join my team, or our team generally, Bought by Many, the thing we look for is growth mindset, that ability to strive to continually improve yourself to be the best you can be, but also a lack of fear of failure, knowing that failure is just part of the learning process to being better. So these are the sort of people we look for. We try and get the best people we can and give them huge mountains to climb.
Turn into a more difficult subject, and one that I know you're very, very passionate about, which is the Black Lives Matter. This is something that, from a startup business perspective, that I suppose is all about values and what you actually stand for and what you believe in. Could you sort of say a little bit about your thinking around the campaign and how you're looking to play a part within that?
Yeah. It's hilarious, isn't it? Or maybe it's not hilarious. We've got this incredible time of change that I outlined before: health, economic, political, technology, and social. And then now we've overlaid possibly one of the, what it feels like, biggest social change imperatives that we've had in an awful long time. We've overlaid that on top of that, through what happened to George Floyd in the States. It's forcing us all to look inside about how well we do what we do, and whether we have an issue. And we have an issue, let's be absolutely clear. And the most important thing is for us to all admit that there is an issue to deal with. Personally, there's lots of things to do. There's for me, there's the ability to try and process my own personal thoughts and feelings about this as a black male who strives to do the best he can do in business, and then lead our organisation into a better place in terms of all of this, and then think about how I can make a change for the whole of the country. Can I? I talked about purpose. It's the mantra that's at the core of my being, and big mountains. So the mountain that I've set myself is, what can I do to make this better for everyone? Not just me, not just my organisation, but everybody, every person of colour in this country. What can I personally do to make this situation better? And I think I can do that because I'm lucky enough to have had a great career. I've met some amazing people, many of whom are influential or just super smart. And I can start tapping on that network to sort of say, well, you know, we all need to make a difference. So what can you do? And what can you do? And what can you do? You know, and so far people have really risen to the challenge, and we've got some exciting things forming in terms of how we might be able to make a sustainable change through businesses leading the way. I've got this great belief that actually governments can do what governments can try and do, but business has a humongous role to play in this. And actually, if we can make the change in our businesses, and our businesses can support opportunities for people, we've got as much of an ability to make a difference through the business route as we have through government. And so that's a really exciting opportunity to try and go for.
I really like that. It sort of fits with, you know, you've clearly been very successful in business. So, you know, you focused on sort of beating the system, and now you're looking at actually what can I do in terms of changing the system as well. So I really like that. We're just sort of coming to the end of the session now. But one thing I do want to sort of pick up on, which I have done with all of these interviews, is it is a very busy, sort of stressful time. How do you ensure that you're at your best? How do you take care of your own personal well-being so you perform at the very best for the people that you're leading?
Yeah, the answer to that would have been, like everything at the moment, would have been different for 4 or 5 months ago to now. Even back then, I was spending a lot of time trying to make sure that I had some headspace. Actually, not to coin a term, but Headspace, the app, I used to use on the train. You know, people are like, really? You can meditate on the train? Yeah, you can meditate pretty much anywhere if you can get yourself in the right sort of headspace. So I'd spend 10 minutes on the way to work and 10 minutes on the way back doing some sort of headspace type work. And then exercise was the other. So headspace, exercise, with the two keys. Funnily enough, since we've been in lockdown and since I've been working from home, everything gets easier, right? So the headspace thing gets easier because I'm not on the train, but it gets harder because of the noise from around, you know, the different things that are going on. And I live near Reading, right? So add on to everything I've just told you, you know, a terrorist attack on my doorstep, and that's just more stuff. And so weirdly, at the moment, it's difficult because there's just all this stuff going on that's popping into my head. So it's very hard to empty it out to create the sort of space. But we try our hardest, and but I'm able to do the exercise more frequently, which has been great. So every morning I get up, I either go for a sort of like power walk for an hour, or I cycle for an hour, or I do a workout routine, or I do Pilates, new discovery, as well. So that bit's been amazing. You know, I don't think I've ever been fitter or healthier in that way, but just busy in the head.
Okay, so final question then, Oki. In terms of drawing on your own personal business and career at this time that we're actually at now, what one piece of advice or insight would you share with fellow leaders that you can leave with them to reflect upon?
Oh, that's a kind of tough one. I've talked about purpose a lot, and purpose for me is the key. You know, if you can find your own personal purpose and your business understands its purpose, it can navigate anything. You know, it understands what it's trying to achieve, how it's trying to go about it. The how gets moved, but the why stays the same. And so, you know, make sure you individually and organizationally can find your purpose. You know, find that why. The how, as we all know, is changing. It's all over the place. It's in flux completely. But the central core of what you're trying to achieve needs to kind of stay the same. And I think if we can all do that, we've got a good chance of exiting whatever situation we find ourselves in, this maelstrom, the better for it. And I think in that, if I can have a supplemental to that, is one of the things my father told me that always stays with me, always stayed with me, is opportunities pass, they don't pause, right? So in all of this stuff that's going on, there will be opportunities and they'll be everywhere, right? But they won't pause, they'll pass. So as a leader, I think you've got to be able to see them, grab them, run with them, embrace the change, and make a difference.
Thank you very much, sir. A great way to finish. Oki, I really enjoyed that, sir. I appreciate you've got a lot on, so thanks so much for taking the time to chat with me. And as I say, I look forward to working with you again in the future.
Thanks, Ian.